Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Belinda Norm Podcast. I have a very special guest. I have a friend called Tanesha who is all the way from Doha. So thank you so much, Tanesha, for joining us all the way from Doha. And for this episode, we're going to be talking about life after university. Is graduating after university any better? Is it easier or is it harder? And what are some of the things that we have learned after our journey? So, Tanesha, could you just give us a small little brief description about who you are and
Oh, yes. Hi, everybody. I am Tanesha. And just to start off, Belinda and I know each other since uni, so we've been friends for long. But currently, I work as a social media manager, and that's my job title for now. And my background is I'm Indian. I'm 25. I was about to say 26, but I'm going to turn 26 very soon. But yeah, that's my short and sweet introduction for now. We'll talk more as we go through.
yeah, we will talk more. And we have so much to go through. And just like Tanesha said, like we've known each other since university when she was an international student in London. And
Mhm.
yeah, I thought she was so adorable when I first met her. She was just like, she's older than me, guys. I was just like, oh my God, she's so cute.
No, I loved meeting you and Riwaj. It was the perfect gang, as you would say, in university because we all complemented each other so well. So I was really thankful. And I used to tell my parents that I'm happy in London because of you guys because it was so fun. Because of
Oh,
fun. And because of you specifically as well. Like we would hang out so much and you made my time in London the best time ever.
it
I,
was
I'm
like,
yeah.
it was a good experience. Just having like international friends is always really, really useful.
Exactly. For cultural.
Yeah, you learn so much as well from each other, and you definitely stay in contact, just like how we are doing right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go into the first question. Could you say where did you study, what did you study, and why did you choose to study that topic?
So to start off, we both studied. I can answer for both of us for this, right? We studied at University of Westminster in London, and we studied digital media and communications. It was a BA honors degree, and yeah, I mean, why did I choose to study that? In all honesty, I did not know what I wanted to do. So it was like literally, this is like the honest answer because okay, I don't know if I've told you this actually, but I was meant to like go in being a pilot and aeronautical engineering, and I even applied for it. I don't know if I told. Wait, I didn't tell you maybe, but I was supposed to become a pilot, and I applied. I applied to City University, Brunel, Imperial, and two others which I don't remember off the top of my head right now. But I got it. I got conditional offers, and I think I got into. And I remember going to the university and like seeing everything, and it was all like gray. And it was like, oh, maybe I don't want to be here because it was only because I wanted to be a pilot, but I was doing engineering just for the sake of it, just to like have a. So then I thought to myself, I was like, do I really want to be engineering just to become a pilot? And then, I kind of switched and I only had the clearance route, right, in UCAS. Yeah, so I took clearance and the first course was media, and I was like, yeah, but I don't know if I want to do journalism or advertising or like, I don't know if a specific route to take. So that's this course had like had a module for everything. I remember seeing it in the first semester. We had like every other module. So that's mainly why I chose digital media and communications. What about you though?
It was the same for me as well. Like I really didn't know
Hmm.
what type of media I wanted to get into because obviously I was already doing YouTube then with my cousin, so I knew I was a creative person inside, but I don't know what area of media that I wanted to get into. So I wanted to like dip my toes into so many different areas, and like for anyone who don't know Westminster DMC course, we kind of everyone in that course kind of dipped their toes into like journalism and PR, and like there was some other stuff as well. I can't remember. It was so long ago.
Creativity, I remember that.
There was like
There was
video
one.
stuff. I remember I was like enrolled into some film production stuff.
Yeah,
Like
I think it was for broadcast journalism. And yeah, I remember doing that as well. Way at
it
the
was like
film.
our toes into everything, and like everyone had a chance to see what they really liked. So that I think that was the best part of our course, if I'm honest. But we'll get into it a little bit later. So for you, you were an international student flying all the way from Doha. So what was that experience for you? Did you get like a culture clash when you got here? Like what did you expect when you got here? Like what was it for you?
So even though I'm Indian, I'm still a third culture child in Doha as well. So what unique experience because it's being like it's a double international student. So when I was initially I was studying in India, then I came to Doha. So then I got kind of used to being around like other cultures and other ethnicities and backgrounds. But then once I came to London, I kind of already knew what I was getting myself into, even though it doesn't seem bad. It was just like I kind of knew the type of people that I would be hanging out with, or like the cultures and stuff. So it wasn't too much of a shock. Everybody is very welcoming, so that's great. I mean, I didn't experience anything bad, or as people would say, like racist or something like that. Nothing like that happened, and everybody was so welcoming. And I think it was because we all had different cultures within our group in university, so it was almost like a melting pot where we all were learning off of each other, which was amazing.
Yeah. Was there any part of like England or the UK that you kind of feel like, oh, this is very different. Like I didn't know you guys like back
Oh,
home we did this and like but you guys do it here. So was there any part of like, okay, I need to adapt myself to it?
I think it was the living away from home. This was one thing that I discussed with our mutual friend Riwaj, and that was a big shock to me. Where I like obviously I was moving out because I was going to university, like studying. Yeah, something that it didn't catch on to me was how people or like how kids leave their homes when they're 18. I was like, we're just kids. Like, how do people just move out when they're 18 and just like are completely independent? That was something, yeah, I guess that only. The others, everything else was pretty like expected.
Okay, yeah. I definitely understand where you're coming from with like
Yeah,
English people moving out of home at such a young age, like 18 and being completely independent. They're
exactly.
probably not even earning like enough to be able to,
Yeah.
in a city like London. For me, I was the same as you as well. Like, even though I
Mhm.
was born and raised in London, I do come from like a traditional family. So I still haven't left home and I'm 26 years old. So it's very,
I know.
very,
Woo! Exactly. Like, but honestly, props to the people who actually leave home at 18, because that in itself is scary. And to be able to like provide for yourself at that young of an age, firstly, you need personal development and like, job experience and stuff. But it's like all in one when you move out at 18 years old. But yeah, it's
yeah,
amazing though. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so let's say fast forward to graduation. You went back home to Doha, right? And then I'm assuming you got like a job straight after. So I'm assuming that's the job you have right now, like working as social media manager. Would you say that? I would say that's probably relatable to what we studied. But is it what
Pretty
you
much.
did? Yeah. So like,
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, when I left, I remember leaving London in like December of 2017,
yeah.
December of 2017. So once I went home, I was unemployed for like 3 months looking for a job. And I did not, again, it was so confusing because even though I was 21, I did not know exactly what I wanted to do. Even though we had 3 years of university, I loved everything. I was like, oh, I want to do a bit of film. I want to do a bit of digital marketing. I want to do a bit of social media. So, and a bit of journalism. So I was like open to any opportunity basically. So mainly, my first job was as a production officer for a social media page. So it was like doing, not handling the social media, video production, the script, the edit, stuff like that. So yeah, it wasn't related to what I'm doing currently, but it was helpful for sure. What about you? Did you?
So for me, I kind of had yeah, I kind of had like the exact same experience as you did. So I was unemployed for like 3 months as well. Oh, actually, let's go back a little bit further. So while we were finishing and graduating from university, I was already at an internship for a
Oh
digital marketing.
yes.
Yeah. And I was just there for like 3 months and they want to see how I do and stuff. Unfortunately, it didn't go well. So I left after 3 months. And then I
Mhm.
went on holiday to Thailand and Australia. And then I came back and then I was trying to apply for jobs for 3 months and no one would accept me or ask for like an interview with
Yeah.
me. So I was just like you. I was really frustrated that no one was willing to take a chance on me. So after like 3 months of so much effort of applying
Mhm.
to these jobs, I finally got a digital marketing agency job,
Yeah.
or SEO specifically. And
Mhm.
I was there for like 3 years up until now, and now I'm just making
Yeah.
content in full time.
But honestly, that's what I remember. That's what you wanted to do. Like when I met you when we were 18 to now, I feel like you've chosen your path very well because that's exactly what you wanted to do at 18 and what you were doing at 18 as well. 18,
Yeah.
19, around that age. So it was a good
Yeah.
path.
It was very suited to me because now I've discovered that I just love creating things. It doesn't even have
Yeah.
to be like videos, I've discovered. Sometimes it could be like design stuff, just having to make something with my hands physically as well. So just wanting to create something and, call it mine and then someone else to love what you created, that just makes me
Exactly.
happy. And I think that what I finally discovered at like 26, which is great. Okay. I want to ask, how did you cope with the transition of moving from like being a full-time international student in London to like full-time employee working for a social media agency consultancy? Like, did you transition very well, or did you
Mhm.
feel like, okay, this is not what I studied at university? I did not expect this.
Okay, at uni we did a lot of theoretical stuff. Let's start there. Like we didn't. I feel like we didn't do enough of practical based stuff where we did like videos for. Okay, I remember us doing this one project for the module called creativity. We created a video and we had to create a video about anything that we wanted, but that was for a grade. You know what I mean? So we would create stuff for us to get graded on, but we didn't do enough of like practical creative things in between. So when I jumped into my job, well, 3 months after I graduated, when I jumped into my job, I didn't really expect the level of load. Like, for example, filming 3 videos in a week and editing it and, putting it out there and stuff. So that load was a bit confusing to me because I was like, oh my God, I'm not used to this. Maybe because in university we had a long period of time before we created something and then we edited it and then we gave it for grading or whatever. So yeah, that was a bit of a shock. Um, Actually, after that job, I went on to do a film in Bollywood. So that was a big learning experience for me, and it taught me a lot on how to manage work on a film set, and also it taught me what I wanted to actually do in life, which was it was social media. So I came back to social media. So yeah,
So that, I mean, it kind of feels like as if you tried a little bit of like
pretty much.
everything, kind of. So would you say
Yeah.
like social media is kind of like your jam, like your bread and butter, like it's your thing and you really love it, enjoy it, and you see yourself staying it for a long time? Or do you feel like there are still some other stuff about media that you want to explore?
No, I think for sure, 100%. Social media is my calling, I would say, where I'm very satisfied with what I do and how I do it. And, obviously, there's so much to learn. It's not like I'm at the position I want to be in, but I would say I would like to grow in social media only and not really like jump fields at this point because I've had enough experience and I can build on that experience now for sure.
So
Mhm.
what is it about social media that kind of draw you in compared to like journalism and film production or TV, whatever
Mhm.
it is? What was it about social media that like, okay, this is it
Mhm.
for me?
I'll tell you why, because it's constantly changing. And that's the only answer that I can give. It's because it's not that the other fields aren't changing, but it's just that social media has so many new things every month, for example. There's new updates, there's new things to learn about, and it's very casual. It's not a set in stone, like, you don't have a procedure to let's say if I want to make a post for the account that I'm handling, there's no like, guideline and boundary and we can explore trends, we can explore working with new people and working with new features. So yeah, that's what I like. It's constantly changing. You don't have a lot of, you're not put in a box. So This depends on what type of social media account you're handling. The one that I'm handling, it doesn't have boundaries, so that's what I like basically. Yeah.
Mm. So, like before you got your social media manager job and like you were applying for loads of different places for like 3 months. When you graduated, did you ever experience like postgraduate anxiety or postgraduate blues? So that's kind of
Mhm.
like you kind of miss university life, or you're worried that, university didn't prepare you for the real world. So you kind of get anxiety.
Mhm.
Did you experience any of that? Because I know I did a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember once I left London, I had so much anxiety of coming back and living in Doha because I was so used to the freedom, and not that Doha is not free. It's just the freedom is very different. Like when you're living with your parents versus when you're not living with your parents, or a Middle East country versus a country like in London, for example, Doha versus City of London. So that's what I mean. It's very different in that sense. So I had anxiety just shifting places, not about the job in specific, because that it took a bit of time to sink in. Where I was once I started the job, that's when I got the anxiety. Like that's when the anxiety kicked in. Like I said, the load of work of how like I was expected to make 3 videos. Your job was quite hectic as well in terms of like not creating content, but just doing the background work for digital marketing, correct?
Yes. So the last agency that I worked for is very SEO focused and not I mean, social media wasn't our forte. It's not in our wheelhouse. So we didn't really offer any social media services, but we did our own social media. And I was the person running our social media.
Oh,
Yeah. So everything was all done by me, even though I wanted to make more time for our social media, for the agency social media page. Um, I didn't really couldn't find a carve like time for it to actually go out and film things and like do a
mhm.
podcast or like think of an actual strategy, because so much of my time was dedicated to doing the actual work for the client. And if you know anything about SEO, I'm pretty sure you must have come across it a little bit at least. So it's just like finding keywords and yeah, just trying to like rank on Google on first page. And because a lot of our clients are pharmaceuticals and healthcare, there's a lot of like strict regulations of what we can and cannot say. So that kind of therefore restricted our SEO keywords of what we can and cannot use. So there was a lot of
Mhm.
like, we have to make our information accurate and detailed and very healthcare and very medicine. And, with us, we don't come from a medicine background. Me and you went digital media communication. So imagine
Yeah.
that medicine. So it was
Mhm.
it took a lot of toll on me having to do a lot of background research just to get like a blog page out, just to say something like when you want to try and be creative, you can't. So they kind of like stifled your creativity a little bit.
Mhm.
And yeah, and that's when I realized, as much as I absolutely love learning everything from there, I have learned so much for the past 3 years. I also
Mhm.
need to feel my creative vibe, which unfortunately I wasn't getting enough of. So that's why now I'm doing like videos and podcasts and starting a small business
Yeah.
and that. So yeah, I think for you, like, did you deal with a lot of consumer products, like consumer brands, which are not very restricted, like healthcare?
Not consumer brands. I actually, funny enough, I haven't ever handled a page with products specifically. Well, no, actually, I did. I just remembered I did, but it wasn't restrictive because. So prior to this job, I was working as a social media manager at another agency for like a year and a half, and in that agency, there were like because the companies that we were handling, meaning the social media pages that we were handling, was sister companies. So we pretty much had the freedom to, if I wanted to like try a new trend or try something different, even though it was product based. I remember the services that they were selling were printing. So like, large scale, small scale printing and stuff. So you could be creative in that sense. There wasn't any like boundaries as such. But yeah, I think it's very important for you to find out what type of page you enjoy handling. So is it travel related? Is it like you said, product related, or is it beauty industry, or is it in the beauty industry, or what type of pages? And then you can narrow down your search, because social media in itself is so huge that you really say I love being a social media manager. Like, I can't say I love being a social media. If I try for another page, I probably would not as much, another industry. I mean,
Well, I want to ask you about finance because as yeah,
Mhm.
as a student, you're obviously very low on finance and supporting yourself. I mean, you probably get support from like the government. Well, in the UK, for UK students, we get like a loan, and that like pays for our tuition and pays for our rent or anything if we are moving out. So we have the government helping us. What was it like for you financially, like
Mhm.
at uni?
Oh, it was initially, see, when you're living with your parents, you don't really think about money. At least I didn't when I was living like before 18 with my parents. And then once I went to London, I did have, for the first time in my life, I had like pocket money where I would get a pocket money, or what do you call it, allowance. That's what usual terms say. So I like had a certain amount of money that I was being parents. I'm very grateful for that, because not like I did not expect it to be so expensive. I spent so much money, and I was like, oh my god, I need to find a way where I can budget, and I don't want to put strain on my parents for, you know, I don't want them to think that I'm some sort of spoiled brat, just like spending money in another in a foreign country. Like, restrict myself, find out the places that were, budget, and how I could budget my groceries, budget my what do you call this, going out expenses, and So yeah, it was quite a shock, because I had never handled money before prior to 18, and then like you're given a bank account, and you're just like, oh, there's money in the bank, but like you handle it, because you're not we don't get taught all these things in school, which is really strange. Honestly, we should be. Yeah, we need to pitch
Yeah.
that.
So so after like you moved to London and that you're finally learning about money management, do you feel like now that you've experienced that, you can apply that to your life after uni? So basically, has your your money management when you were a student in London applied to real life? So now you actually see like, okay, money, this is something that I need to be able to control and keep track of. So do you feel like your habits have improved?
100%. Yeah, for sure. I remember the first, when I came back from like the first vacation I took after I studied in London. I mean, meaning like, I think it was the first semester, when after I went back, my sister told me, "Oh my God, like why are you thinking about money?" And like, she asked me, because she was so young at the time. Because I constantly would ask, "How much is this?" Like, let's say we're going out for dinner, I'd be like, "How much is this? Is it worth it? Do I need to buy this?" Da, da, da. So my parents were shocked as well. They're like, "What? Like, we didn't expect this much of a change in your money saving habits." So yeah, it's helped a lot, because had I not gone through that, I wouldn't be saving now. So I feel like I'm on my way to the right amount that I need to save for the future.
Yeah,
Like
okay,
you.
most definitely. For me, like I've always, I mean, for a young age, I've worked at such a young age. I actually started working when I was 13, 14, and that was when my parents owned two Thai restaurants in central London, and I would work like on only on Sundays, and that would be like my pocket money for school. So that would pay for
Mhm.
my bus, that would pay for my food, and that would be enough for like a week,
Mhm.
basically. And yeah, ever since then, like I kind of learned the value of money at such a young age, and then I was able to implement a savings kind of habit because my mom told me like, okay, we're going to go to Thailand this year, save up some money and that'll be your spending money in Thailand. And yeah, and then that will be like your hard earned work. And ever since that, she's kind of introduced savings to me. That's ever since
Mhm.
then I've used that as my habit for finance my whole entire life. So I definitely think like people deal with money differently and they have a different attitude to money depending on what they experience and what they've been taught at such a young age. For me, I'm very blessed to know that like my parents taught me about money management at such a young age, and now I'm able to be able to rely on my savings if anything was to happen to me. So I would say like my money, even at university, was pretty good, and even after university, it's gone even better. So I'm very thankful of that
Yeah.
um, that part in my life. So that's all really great, and it's good to know that you've changed and you've improved as well, and now like you've grown into like this, you know, strong woman who is working full time and like just financially supporting herself. So that's really good. It's all about growth. Um, okay, so what was it like for you meeting new people? So versus like meeting new people at university, do you feel like it was easier to make new friends at university and like, gelling with new types of people in a foreign country? Or do you feel like it was easier for you to meet new people when you're working full time?
I think I think it was easier to make friends when I was at university. Of where I was, I would give credit a lot to London and to like the place in itself because firstly in university you do meet more opportunities to meet new people. Whereas when you're working, I mean, you 9 to 5, you're at a job, and you don't, even if we go out, let's say twice a week or something, you don't really get the opportunity to meet new people. So yeah, for sure. I mean, I never had trouble making friends. It was just the shyness at first. But yeah, the initial hello is what like scared me, and then it was all okay. So yeah.
Yeah, it was the same for me as well. I'd say like it was so much easier to meet and make new friends at university. I managed to make new friends at the agency, like, in my 20s. But yeah, I don't really get to meet new people as often as I'd like to. So that was quite a challenge. So when people say like, oh, it's harder to make new friends in your 20s, they are so true. I didn't believe them at first, but it's so true, that statement. Do you think university prepares you for life? Like, do you think that it just helps you in getting a job and how to apply for a job, and it's just for getting that specific job? Or do you feel like it's helpful in terms of personal development as well, growing as a person?
So the first part of the question, where does it help you in life? Really think it does. I mean, when I was in university, sometimes I did question. I'm like, is this worth? Like, you think of it as an investment, right? You think, is this amount of money that we're putting into my education worth me getting like the return on investment, or like would I be getting a job that's equally beneficial to me? Or these type of questions do come in your head. At the end of the day, the personal development, which is the second part of your question, the personal development, the friends, the money management, the how do you say, handling of the tasks that you have at university, how you juggle your personal life versus your friends versus the university assignments, it all teaches you so much. So I would 100% recommend anybody, if they have the means to go to university, for it, because yes, you can learn everything online now, but actually doing it in the real world and like, for example, meeting people and just having those type of experiences, personal development is like the most important, I think, for me out of that whole experience that we had.
Definitely agree. I think university is definitely a place that prepares you. I mean, I'm kind of half and half with it. I mean, in some way, it does prepare you for life, but at the same time, I feel like it also doesn't, because in real life, I'm not writing theories all day and every day,
Yeah.
and we don't have a
Mhm.
time. I feel like at university, you have so much time to deliver I
Mhm.
don't know, an essay or something, and it's just like I don't have to research. Well, technically I do, but some people, they don't have to research as much on their jobs. So I feel like with university, it's very good when it comes to doing deep research and doing a lot of theories. But in life, you're not going to be doing theories all the time.
Yeah.
But I would say the best thing that university does prepare you for in real life is people networking and having to move out your house and being your own person and finding things about yourself. So I'll say that aspect is quite, a personal development experience at university. But in terms of the actual learning at the
Yeah.
academia, it's not so much, I would say. So yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, besides doing presentations in class, like some people do presentations.
Yeah. No, I
Um,
completely
some
agree. I do agree with
Okay.
the fact that yes, the personal development, but like I said earlier, like we need more theoretical, more theoretical, more practical stuff to be taught at like to be done at university, because that really would teach us time management and like how do you task management and time management both at the same time. So yeah, I think it's also like responsibility of the people who make up the courses. I don't know what you call that. There needs to be a good balance between theory and practical, because it's not all about theory. And I remember we were learning a lot of historical things. One of our
Yeah.
module was completely history based, like when the first camera came out and something I remember. I'm like, how is this going to help us in the future? So yeah, for sure, I do agree with what you said as well.
Yeah. Oh my God. There was one time I was enrolled in a class. I don't know if you were there, but it was like media transformation or something, if you remember.
It's the same one I'm talking about. Like when was the first camera discovered? When was the first film discovered? And I'm just like, uh, we don't really need to know this. It was the
Yeah,
same.
and it was just it was like going into like World War One and World War Two and how media was used as
Yeah.
propaganda. I'm like, okay, this is really cute, but it's not exactly what I signed up for. So I don't
Yeah.
care about the history right now. So yeah, it was not very
I don't know if you remember, we had like different classes. Like, okay, we had one module, but you would have different, I think it was called classes at the time, right? Like you were in a different class with, we had, basically we had journalism, advertising, PR, all of us collect one module sometimes. And then we'd have different classes where we'd meet all the people in the other courses, which I really liked because I got to know what they were doing. And I asked a lot of people, I was like, what are you doing in journalism and what are you doing in advertising? So yeah, that opportunity was nice of mixing in the classes, but not the theory part for sure.
yeah. I just hated the theory part. Like it's just so boring to me. Okay. My next question is, what are some of the things that you've learned about life that uni did not teach you about?
Oh, okay. This one I
I
have
guess
to
you could.
think about because yeah, the thing is uni. Okay, at uni I had a lot of in the best, like the best experience ever because my friends were nice, everything was nice, the accommodation was nice. So I never had a bad experience in uni. So I think uni didn't prepare me for any bad experiences. This is what I would coin the term as, because after uni I had a lot of like wake up in terms of just like what jobs and like because I shifted fields in between, so I had a lot of wake up calls and uni didn't prepare me for that. So yeah, I would say bad experience is such a generic answer, but it's the one I have right now.
I guess it's quite a deep question in a way. I guess
Yeah.
it was like a way of, yeah, me trying to say like, what is it that you've learned from your full-time job versus to what you've learned at your university, and like, do they
Hmm.
go together or do they like
Hmm.
completely separate and you had to adapt yourself to the real world kind of thing? So it was,
Yeah.
I guess that was like I explained it that way.
Yeah, no, I feel like, okay, for example, when we did speak about digital media and communication, that was our course, right? We didn't learn enough of social media actually. This is one thing that uni didn't teach us. We learned a lot about, and honestly, we learned a lot of basic things. So, for example, we learned how to build a website, we learned how to broadcast journalism, like, the most basic things that I think about. A lot of our classes did have a lot of repetition. Like, we would have the same. Yeah. So that, yeah, that was something where if we had gone a bit more in depth, I would have been more productive in my actual job. Where, like, okay, for example, you did SEO and stuff. Imagine we had gone a more like deeper into SEOs back then. It would have helped you, right,
It
in
would have
the
helped
digital
me
marketing
so
job.
much. Yeah, it definitely would have. It would have been so much easier for me. I
Mhm.
mean, I was lucky that like they actually wanted to take me on because I had video YouTube experience and they didn't have anyone on the team who does that. So I was an asset to them.
Yeah.
So and they trained me pretty hardcore. Like my first week was so intensive. It was such a
Yeah.
like really like first week of training. So yeah, they pretty much trained me really well, I would say. Did you guys have the same thing too? Did you have to do training as well when you first joined your social media agency?
No, because okay, for example, actually, this is one thing that I had written down to say during this episode was the reason I guess I did not get a training was because university prepared me in terms of having a blog, having a YouTube, like, dipping your toes in every little aspect and keeping your social media active. So it gave a very good impression to the people that were hiring, I guess, where it looked like, oh, okay, she's on top of, social media, YouTube, like, those type. For example, so yeah, uni did help in that sense. I remember I learned off of you guys when you guys started blogs and you had a YouTube channel as well. I was like, this is why it's so good to be around like-minded people, and why I enjoyed being in your company and our other friends' company, because we all encourage each other to start our own pages or do whatever we want, like whatever we want, whether that was YouTube or whether that was a blog or so on and so forth.
For me, like, I would say what uni did not teach me was the more like the working environment and how to deal and work in a
Mhm.
workplace. So, for example, like working in an agency, like for those of you who don't, work in an agency in a fast-paced industry, is that you definitely need to have boundaries and protect your time, and that is something that I didn't learn at university. Like, I think when I first joined the agency, I was very much a yes woman. I'll say yes to anything and
Mhm.
do
Mhm.
anything and willing to impress people by my work. And I thought that like getting my head down and doing my work and doing really good work would get me far like ahead.
Mhm.
But apparently it's actually quite the opposite. It's the people who really get ahead are the ones that are very outspoken. Like even if their work is okay and they're doing great and they hit the bar and they deliver the work, but if they are very vocal and they express how they feel, and they're not sorry for anything, they get way further ahead. And that's something that I didn't learn about at
True,
university.
true,
They
yeah.
didn't show us office politics. They didn't show us like how you deal with toxic office work environment. What do you do? How do you ask for a raise? Like how do you deal with a
Exactly.
toxic or things, yeah, things that are very like very real life situations. I think university was very good at teaching us technical skills, but they didn't teach us soft skills, which I kind of had to learn through trial and error in real
Mhm.
life, which would have been really useful if they did at university. So there is this little quote I'm pretty sure you've heard of, is when people say university is the best years of your life. Do you
Mhm.
agree? Do you?
Yes. And I'll tell you why. It's only
Okay,
because
tell
of
me.
the no worries situation. I think it depends from person to person, obviously, because of how, like, what is your situation at the time. But for me at the time, it was going through a lot prior to university. So once I went, it was like a breath of fresh air where I met new people. It's like you almost rebuild yourself. So you build a new persona. Like you don't really completely change your identity, but you get to build on the best parts of yourself. You get to sort of meet people and learn off of them. And it was very nice in terms of travel as well. We traveled a lot during university, all of us. So I would say they are, because how would I classify them as the best years of my life is if I look back on them and be like, oh, I wish I was there. For sure. I do wish I was back. So yeah. What about you? Do you think that
Oh,
best years of your life?
it's really hard to say, Tani, because like I would say like when I look back on it, it's definitely fond memories. Like I think of you, I think of Reward, I think of our campus, I think of like all the fun times where we don't have to worry about applying for a job. We don't have to worry
Yeah.
about like, when's gonna be our next paycheck because like the government pays for us like every 3 months, I think, or something like that. So
Mhm.
money wasn't a huge issue to us, but like in a way that's I would say that's the way that I would really miss about university, and that's what I look back on fondly. But at the same time, I wouldn't say it's the best year of my life because I didn't have as much freedom on my decisions. I feel like now that I'm older, my parents trust me a
Ah,
little bit
okay.
more to make my own decisions, and that like I have the freedom to do whatever I want, and like I can go there and go places without having to think, okay, I need to be
Mhm.
in the library at uni until like 5 o'clock in the morning to finish off this essay for a deadline. So I feel like after uni, I felt more of a person who I am. Whereas when I was at university, I wasn't really sure
Think
which way
about
I was
it.
going.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm a little bit confused. I have an idea, I know what I want to do, but I'm not
Mhm.
quite there yet. Whereas now I'm a little bit older. I'm more than my 26 years old. I'm like more than my mid 20s. So
Yeah.
I'm starting to understand who I am and what I really want out of it, and what how I want to be treated and how I want to treat other people and like what I want to do. So I would say like it's a yes and no kind of answer to university. So
Mhm.
definitely agree with you. Like there's just no worries when you're a student. Like you don't need to rush.
Amazing.
So with everything that we have discussed on this episode, would you say that life is better after university?
Yes, for sure. If you had asked me this at 21 when I left university, I would be like, no. Because the 3 months that I was unemployed after uni, I was like, what is this? Signing up. I'm taking another bachelor's degree because this is not what I signed up for after uni. But now at 25 years, I 100% do think it is way better after uni. Because, like you said, you get to make your own decisions. You are not bound to just studying, or like, you can do a lot of different things. You can study and work at the same time. I mean, most people do at that time as well, but still, like, you get to experience a lot more. You are financially independent, which is great. And yeah, I mean, you become a whole different person, of course, after uni. Like, do you think you're like different? I feel like I'm a whole different person. If you ask me at 18 to 21, I was a completely different person.
100%. Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm a different person to who I was back
Mhm.
then. Like, how many years has it been? Like 8 years since we.
Oh my god.
Like, I do feel like a different person now as to who I was before, because I feel like I'm just like I said before, like I'm older, I'm a little bit wiser. I've experienced the whole workplace environment now, and I feel like that's
Mhm.
strengthened me as a person. And I finally
Mhm.
learn about what I'm able to bring to the table work-wise and what I'm not willing to tolerate at a workplace environment. And these
Mhm.
are all things that I've learned in real life as compared to my university self, which probably doesn't know what her boundaries are. She doesn't know what she
Yeah.
wants to do. She's guessing her way
Mhm.
through. So yeah, I definitely feel like a completely different person. So to people who are listening to us on this podcast and possibly maybe watching this video podcast version, what advice would you give to graduates when they graduate and go out into the real world?
Okay, the advice that I'm about to give is not after you graduate, it's while you're doing your graduation as well, like while you're studying, is to whatever course it is. I'm just going to give an example for me. Dip your toes in everything. Like, try out everything. You never know what you might be good at. I'm just going to give an example of, we were studying digital media and communications. And at the time, we had a web module, and I thought, oh my god, I want to have a website. I want to work for people, uh, like work for a company and deal with their website issues and website concerns and stuff like that. Never did I think that I would like social media, but then once you dip your toes into it, that's when you know, do I like it, do I not like it, am I good at it, am I shit at it? So like, you need to make sure that you're building your portfolio way before you start work, and not just at internships. Do a lot of self work as well. So, and another piece, after you graduate, don't sell yourself short. That's for sure. Like, a lot of times we sell ourselves so short, like, oh, I'm just a graduate, I just graduated, I maybe I don't need to get paid. Of course you need. If people are asking you to do free things, or like, let's just say, like, you're getting minimum pay, it's not worth it. Like, don't just accept anything. Have some sort of quality to your work, and you put your boundaries out there. So yeah, that's what I would say. What about you, B?
That is like the perfect advice. Like I kind of had something similar along the lines. I would 100% agree with having to, if you're going to do something very creative, like we had some graphic designers in our campus as well, and they had to build a portfolio, or if you're studying to be a fashion designer, you had to have a portfolio. So I would say like any work that you are doing at university right now, that is proof that you can use to your job, to your future employer. And you can say that I have experience in this, I've done this kind of work, this is what I can do, and these are my skills. So I would say all of your university work and effort are just not for the grades. Use it for your job, and you can show it off and say this is mine. And that's just something you always keep forever because it will always belong to you. Also, be active. Don't just, be lazy at university and just go about
Mhm.
partying and drinking. Like, definitely utilize
Yeah.
your time more effectively. And like, I don't know, maybe hone on your skills when you do have some time. Make sure you're taking care of yourself in terms of health wise, like physical and mentally. Make sure that you are out meeting new people that that you want to be
Mhm.
like and you want to be working with potentially. Also learning about your boundaries. You definitely need to know what you will tolerate and what you will not tolerate. That'll probably take some inner work and some time to develop, but as soon as you do that, people will respect you so much more, especially in a workplace environment. That's something that I really should have said like way earlier on when graduates first joined into like a work like big company or an agency. People kind of see them as like, oh, this is a person that will take on anything and everything because they don't know
Mhm.
what they want. So if you go in there knowing what you want and you say exactly what you want, they will respect you more and they will respect your boundaries and they will see you as someone who takes initiative and is a go-getter, and you've proved it as well. And also, my last advice, I didn't mention this before, but like if you studied for something specific, like for me and Tanisha, we studied digital media communications, which is it's still general, but it's still media related.
Yeah.
If you don't get a job in whatever course that you studied and you don't like it and you want to completely change your path, it is completely fine. So I mean, Tanisha,
Yeah.
hypothetically speaking, like for example, if you just suddenly say like, oh, I don't want to be a social media manager anymore, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go into piloting and learn to be a pilot. That is completely fine
Exactly.
if you want to change your path. Don't feel like you have to stick to I don't know, your job related to your course or what you study at university, because that's not how life goes, because then you're just going to be unhappy. And life is too short to be unhappy about those kind of things. So I'll definitely say just because you studied for something doesn't mean you have to stay within that industry. You can go anywhere you
Mhm.
want. It's freedom. The world is your oyster. Enjoy it and be safe. And yeah, don't worry about your course being a waste, because it'll never be a waste. It'll always belong to you, and it's an experience that you have. Um, and that is my massive big advice.
And I do want to add on to the part where you said like don't be scared to change your path, but at the same time like don't be pressured to take a certain path. So if someone, let's say a family member or but just like your peer situation at school, like if someone's taking if you're doing something for someone else, don't. Like it's not going to help you in the long run, because coming from like experience here, I purely took aeronautical engineering in the beginning because my schoolmates were all into engineering and becoming doctors and like lawyers and architects and those in those fields. So I kind of felt out of place if I ever even thought of taking media. So don't go and like be pressurized to take a certain course. Feel free to experiment and like think about your experiments, of course, before before sharing it out at university. But still, don't be pressured. Like you don't have to take the mainstream courses just because they will earn you more money in the future. Like if it's not going to keep you happy, it's not. It's not worth it at all.
Okay, so I'm gonna wrap this episode and end it here. Tanisha, thank you so much for taking time of your day to join me in this podcast and give advice to these young graduates and to people in university. Like I really appreciate it. And thank you to you guys who are listening at home or watching this YouTube version of it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video or podcast. Bye.